Welcome to the Crazy Cool Family Podcast with Don and Suzanne Manning.
A podcast where we share with you great insights about everything family from over 30 years of parenting 7 kids and over a decade of equipping parents through our Crazy Cool Family ministry.
So let us inspire and equip you to build your best family. Hey, all you crazy cool parents out there, we are going to talk to you mamas. We are calling this podcast Reclaiming Motherhood, and I have gathered all of my daughters, which are now mothers, but the very first people that made me be a mother and helped me define what motherhood was and is for me. And we just have some things that have just kind of been stirring up with different people, different moms that we've talked to. And we feel like that there might be sometimes, I don't know, maybe you've talked to a mom where there's a negative feeling about motherhood, where this is hard and I don't want to do this. And this is, my kid did this. And, we've all gotten together at the park and we're playing and everybody's whining and complaining about how hard it is. And so we just want to take some time and answer some questions, some topics, maybe some ideas. But really what we want to do is we want to inspire and encourage you that motherhood's worth it.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely incredible. And that doesn't mean that it's not hard. But what did you say earlier, Kinsey? You said hard doesn't mean
Bad.
Yeah. And so just because it's hard doesn't mean that it's bad. And so let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think being a mom is, I say that a lot. It's like one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. And it's just beginning. Like I have a 2-year-old and I'm about to have another baby. And it's like, I'm at the very starting line of motherhood. And it's challenged me. It's humbled me. It's broken me, in like so many ways. And it's like really made me love and appreciate and respect the women in my life, like my sisters and my mom and my friends, knowing that we're kind of like all going through this together. Or I think about the moms that I grew up with, friends that I hung out with or like knew and really loved. I love them even more now that I'm a mom because I like understand the sacrifice and the things that they did for us and that now we're doing. But I think there is a little bit of a cup half empty approach to motherhood that I'm feeling in my own life and then in the people I'm talking to, where it's almost like victimhood, but we're trying not to be victims, but it's just really hard. And so we're like trying to figure out how to talk about the hardship and still love our kids and celebrate them and like soak up every moment. So it's this weird and so kind of conversation. So I think that's like what I'm excited to kind of dig into with all my sisters and my mom, and hopefully encourage people to be like, hey, if you have this mindset, you're not alone. And we want to bring maybe some truth into some thought processes or some ways of being that maybe are just not what God has for you. So excited to share, but also receive and hear what other people have to say.
I just want to say that before we even get into all of the other things, is that our work as a mother is kingdom work.
Yeah.
And so, of course, it's hard because kingdom work is hard. The things of this world are easy compared to what God has for us, because what God has for us is above and beyond the things of this world. It doesn't line up. It's not parallel. It's opposite of.
Yeah.
And so motherhood is relationship. Motherhood relies on the fruits of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, self-control, all of that. And that's really hard when you're not walking in that, when you're not choosing that.
True.
And so raising children that in the Lord is one of the greatest missions that we have on earth. As I look back, that we sent our last child off into the wild blue yonder, and he's look at he's not a pilot.
The wild red yonder.
And I look back and I think that the 30 years that I have lived so far, that most definitely the highlight is motherhood. Most definitely that role, getting to invest in each and one of the 7 children that I have got to raise, has been incredible. But you guys, y'all are at the very beginning of it. And I remember being at the very beginning of it, and it didn't feel so rosy and it wasn't so warm and cozy, and it was hard. And so talk to me a little bit about what you're feeling and thinking about motherhood.
Well, I guess this is a question I actually have for you, Mom. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. But something that I've noticed, and moms, maybe you guys can attest to this on here, but there's a lot of, in my world or just in general, it feels like the things I see about motherhood when we're in the thick of it. So a bunch of little kids at the house, full-time mom mode, there's negative. But then anyone you talk to that's a granny or a yaya or a Mimi or whatever it is, they'll stop you at the grocery store. If you have little kids, you get stopped at every store and they say, "Oh, how cute. How old are they? And oh, you've got your hands full and look at all these kids." And they'll always say some phrase, which usually is like, the years are long, but the days are long, but the years are short, or you're going to miss it, or don't blink, it goes by so fast. Or I remember when mine were that little, it seems like yesterday. I mean, like, these are phrases that I hear anytime I'm out and about. Yeah. And so something like, there feels like there's something negative going on in the moms with like younger kids, but then somewhere in the 20 years of parenting, it switches. And you just said it, Mom. You just said the highlight of the last 30 years, one of the highlights of the last 30 years of your life was like motherhood. And so how do you believe that? And how do you think that? Like, if you're speaking to me who has 4 kids, 6, 5, 3, and 1, homeschooling full-time with them all day, every day, every minute, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week with them. Like, how do you
the nights?
And then exactly, when they have a fever in the middle of the night or they need to pee or whatever it is, how do you like tell someone who's me or in my season that's like, what do you tell us, to help us have positive mindsets and hearts? Or Macy and Kinsey, who are at the beginning of it, how do you get the proper mindset? What is it? What's the secret? What are you believing about motherhood that we can believe?
Yeah, that's so good at where I'm sitting now, because I definitely didn't believe it when I was sitting where you're sitting, and I would say that the number one, I don't know, reason for bad mouthing motherhood is being exhausted, not getting any sleep, and having a small minion. No, I don't know. Dependent. There you go. Volatile. Dictator in your home. I don't know what you want to call your 2-year-old.
Rebuke.
What basically trying to grow up. This wee little person's trying to have their own opinions and ideas, and they've got an adventure, and they're seeing eyes through the lens of childhood, and we're seeing life through the lens of an adult, and those two worlds clash constantly. Mm-hmm. And so I guess the advice that I would give you is stop being an adult and go ahead and join them. I mean, you're going to have to pay your bills and the taxes, and you're going to have to do the things that are in the adult world. But when it comes to interacting with your child, what would it look like if you joined them more in their world? Because what that will do is that will put you in the present moment. And that will make you stop worrying and thinking about all the things that as adults have to do, and that will build a memory. Yeah. And that will build confidence and security in them, but it'll also build a connection to them, which is what you want. You want to have that relationship. When you're back at my age again, you want to have a relationship with your grown-up kids, and where that starts is right there in the moment with your child, in their childhood, during their days, in the minutes of their days. So a lot of the times I think young parents get caught up in all the things that they have to do, and there is a lot. You have a lot to do. Yeah. And then don't see the child. And so, I mean, I guess the solution to that would be is recruit your kids to help you do as much as you can. Yeah. Or hire it out.
Yeah. Yeah, because we asked the question on here: in what ways have you seen motherhood as a detour or interruption? And I think that means that the mindset is that dishes, laundry, household, projects, tasks, those are the thing, and motherhood is the interruption. Therefore, playing with my kids, sitting down, coloring, pausing,
It's good.
that becomes the interruption or the detour because we forgot what the thing is that we're actually doing. Whereas if motherhood was the thing, yes, having a clean house is part of that, but how do we include the kids in a clean house, or how do we make space to play and do this, or whatever it is? If we keep motherhood as the main thing, the main calling, and household and chores and tasks, those fit under motherhood, then we're prioritizing the little people versus the little tasks.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You're colliding your worlds, and you're taking the responsibilities of the adult world and you're including the children in it. And what's so crazy is they love it. They love taking out the trash and I mean, the 1-year-old in the dishwasher, best time of their life. And so why not include them? I mean, they bring more fun and more energy to those tasks that you've been doing for years and years and years, and you're done with them and you don't want to do them anyway. But they really are fun.
So true. Literally on Wednesday, Sayla and I took out the trash. It was like 2 days ago. And she always takes out the little bathroom trash, and I always take out the big trash. And we were walking out to the trash, and she kept saying, big trash, big trash, big trash. And we got to the big trash, and she was like, I love trash. It's like, what's happening right now?
That's a great example, a great example. And so what happens, I think, with us moms, I mean, and I was the worst. So I am not coming from a place of, yay, me, I won. I was Martha in the story of Mary and Martha. I was Martha. I was do. Even today, when I hang out with the grandkids, I find myself in the kitchen doing, and then trying to serve my grown children instead of playing with my grandchildren.
Yeah.
And so that's very
Poor
hard
Suze.
very hard for me, acts of service, to not get into the do. But I encourage you, when you do that, it's a lot more fun for everybody.
True.
Okay.
Yeah.
Molly, why don't you tap in and tell us something fabulous about being a mother? Where are you? Because you've got a little bit of a different scene.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to juggle working and
Boys in school.
yeah, and then school, outside schedules where you're trying to get people someplace on time, which is just not fun.
Yeah.
That's 90% of the reason I homeschooled, was because I didn't want to get them somewhere at a certain time.
I support that in our current season. I'm like, why are we out the door at 7:45? Why do we wake up in the sixes? This is dumb. We should all be in our pajamas at home. I think like something that it's interesting. Yeah, I have been thinking a lot lately. It's actually motherhood is like has actually been very encouraging to me lately, because I feel like currently in our life, in our season, my husband is finishing up his PhD, our jobs are transitioning, our son is starting a new school. We have a 5-year gap between our kids. But in our current season, we're not like our hearts are not, our practical life is not able to match where our hearts are when it comes to serving at our like local like the church we go to. And so I catch myself sometimes thinking I'm not doing enough for the mission of God, or I'm not serving where I want to be, or I don't actually even know what my calling is, or we aren't there enough, all these things, because I grew up that way, or that's how our marriage has been. And it's just not the season for us to say yes in a lot of those ways. However, what God, like in it, like his sweet kindness, like in goodness, continues to remind me is like, oh, in motherhood, you're actually doing the most. Like you are constantly having to be sanctified and die to yourself. You are constantly having to tell these small, rebellious children that don't necessarily know God yet, like, oh, ask for more fruit of the Spirit. Like I had this thought the other day that no wonder Sebastian isn't content, because his heart doesn't know God. Like he's 6. We are only fully content when we know God, and he hasn't asked God into his heart yet. And so he's not fully content with his life. And so for me, it's actually been a flip of like, it's been a comfort that in the trenches, or the days when it's really hard and I just look around and I'm like, what is happening here? I feel comforted because I'm still on mission with God, or doing mission with God and ministry with God in motherhood, when it feels like maybe I'm not doing that in this season outside of the house. And even in the seasons where we have said yes and we're like going at all cylinders and we're like, know exactly the lane we're supposed to be in when it comes to ministry and church and mission, amazing. Motherhood gets to like step right alongside that. But I think in the seasons where it feels like that's not happening, I actually am comforted by the mission of motherhood, even when it's
Yeah.
hard or it doesn't feel like the most glamorous or rewarding thing. Because if all I ever do in life is Sebastian and Cruz, and if we have any more kids, if all I ever do is them to know God and hear God's voice and talk about God in their life and lead people to God, then I've done it,
Yeah.
like then the mission of
Totally.
God is complete in my life. And I pray that they multiply that. And even if they only do that to their kids, well, then there we go. And like mom and dad are the most perfect example of that. They've sent 7 kids out, and those 7 people married people. So now that's 14 people. And those 14 people have almost 10 grandkids who, in Jesus' name will all know God. And if all mom and dad ever did was that, then oh my gosh, the ripple. And so I think for me, it's like an inverse. And I don't know if that helps people to just stop and sometimes be like, oh, actually, this is it. If this is all I ever do, if this is all I can do, this is actually it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. I 100% agree because we're be fruitful and multiply, go and make disciples of all nations. Okay, well, that starts with love the Lord God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Love your neighbor. That's the one that lives right next to you. So you put all that together, and what does that do? That tells us we're discipling our children first, and that's our highest calling. And I think that that's what puts the kingdom work in motherhood is we're the ones that get to show our kids Jesus.
Yeah.
We're the example. We get to read the Bible stories to them and tell those stories to them and show them what Jesus looks like every single day, all the different minutes of the day. And so it's a very, very high calling. So
Yeah. Which
kids.
Parker and I'm Mackenzie. Hello. We don't have to introduce ourselves. But we've been serving in our college ministry we started serving when I was pregnant with Alice. And so we've felt a tension in our capacities to be able to really like disciple and grow our college ministry really efficiently and effectively because of our limitations of, okay, we are a family. And at one point, Parker was reading Emotionally Healthy Leadership. And it was talking about how it's supposed to be love the Lord your God, number one relationship, most important. And then it's like you and your spouse and your family, like that's the next most important. And then ministry like goes under that. But oftentimes we'll lump ministry in our relationship with God. So then that becomes the primary thing.
Wow.
And we had a helpful conversation of like, actually, I think our greatest ministry is how we love one another and how we show healthy marriage and healthy parenting to these college students. Like that's actually way louder than us having a really great discipleship where we read the Bible and get crazy revelation about who God is. It's like that is effective and it's great. But our greatest ministry is actually exposing a healthy marriage and a healthy parenting because these college students are going to get married one day and have kids and think back to how did Mackenzie and Parker parent Alice? Like how did they navigate conflict and what did they learn about themselves in marriage that helped them be parents? Like those kind of questions is way more valuable than consistent ministry. And I think that priority list feels really valuable and helpful to see, like kind of based on what you were saying, Molly. It's like, yeah, your ministry is like Bash and Cruz and Bohemian, like first in your love and devotion to God. And then from that flows actual fruitful, life-changing ministry with anyone else that you're around.
So good, girls. Okay, let's talk about dealing with insecurities because I think I know that as a young mom, there was a bunch of different things that I don't know, I felt weak or inadequate in. I know that I actually went to school and became a school teacher, so I felt pretty confident homeschooling you guys, but I remember talking to moms who didn't feel confident because they didn't have that kind of degree, and I was like, do you know your ABCs? Can you add? You're golden then, as long as
First
you
grade,
can,
check.
you can do it. And so, but is there anything that areas in motherhood that makes you guys feel weak or inadequate as a mom? I know that just I started saying this, but then I went on to another person who had their weaknesses. I was talking about theirs, but for me, mine was when my little girls were all little is I would get so frustrated with you guys. Do y'all remember that? Do y'all have wounds from me being angry? Like I would get
Yes.
so angry. And so I
Yes.
felt, yes, yes. And
Very
so,
wounded, yes.
yes, very wounded.
Thanks
Very,
for asking.
yeah. So it was definitely a weakness. And it wasn't until I literally went through a whole seminar, an anger seminar, and I was able to label the things that made me angry. Okay, so y'all, what's one of the things that I would get angry about if I got what?
Hurt. Stub your toe.
If I got
Spilled
hurt.
grease on your foot.
Yeah, I did that.
Dropped anything.
Broke your
Or bumped
foot.
into anything. Broke your foot.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Or
So,
feet.
yeah. Or if they made a mess and I didn't have the energy to
Messes.
clean it up, messes, that was another thing that I would be so angry about. I was pregnant, for 2 decades, and so bending over and picking stuff off the floor. Y'all can
Anything.
relate now. We've got 2 daughters here that are
Yes.
8 months pregnant.
Like Kinsey literally said earlier, she's like, I've been telling my husband, if he sees things on the ground, just elevate them. You don't have to pick them all the way up.
I don't
Just
know where they need to go, just off the ground.
Just somewhere higher for me, please, anyone.
I got really good with my toes. I can pick up anything with my
Yeah.
toes.
That is the trait of motherhood. You can do anything with your toes because then even when you're not pregnant, you're carrying a baby. So you have to they're wrapped around you. You can't wake them up.
Yeah. So that's good. All right. What have y'all, what's revealed itself? Because that's the beauty of motherhood is it's obviously something that we are doing for others, for our children, but it's also a refining in us.
Yeah.
God gets to come in and mold and shape the people that we are. So me and my anger issues, if I didn't have 7 kids, I wouldn't be.
Be rage monster.
Yeah, I would still be a rage monster today. Exactly.
Shout out.
Big ones for me, I feel like that God's refining me in is just that I'm really selfish. And that
That's good though. That right there is actually one of the deterrents to motherhood. A lot of women
Don't
don't
want
want to
to.
be moms
Yeah.
because they
the
are that.
sacrifice.
Yeah.
But just realizing every single day the things that I want to do versus the things that she wants to do. And there's actually a picture, and I think it's in our relationship guide. Correct me if it's the wrong one, if it's relational discipline. But there's this picture that mom came up with when we were writing these guides. And there's a line, and on one side of the line is little kid shoes, and on the other side of the line are big people shoes. And then we talk about this concept. And then in the next page, on the next picture, it's the line, and both sets of shoes are on both sides of the line. And it's basically this idea of like, instead of living against each other or having your agendas come against each other, how do you guys, as the parent and as the kid, like get on the same side of the line and like do it together? And like, I've been thinking about that picture so much lately because that's what it feels like every day with Selah right now. It's like, you're over there and I'm over here. Like sometimes physically, like the other day I was at the park and she was like 30 yards over there and I was like 30 yards over here, 8 months pregnant, and I couldn't get her to come to me. And Madeline was there. She saw her, like I just chased her down like a whole football field back. And I just shouted to Madeline. I was like, I'm losing.
She wanted to get at the park with her cousins. Macy was taking her home early.
No, I had what I wanted to do, and I wanted to get somewhere by noon, and we needed 25 minutes to do it, and just like that whole process of my way versus her way. And I just feel like really just calling it what it is. I feel like it's selfishness, it's my agenda, and I'm missing out on honestly like really sweet moments or memories with her because I'm like trying to do it my way. And I totally
The
think,
adult way.
yeah, it's the adult way. And I totally think there's a time and a place to do what needs to be done. I'm not saying like your kids run your show, but I think there's a lot more moments where I could bend or I could adjust a lot more easily, not even to cater to her, but just to be open to like, okay, we could do it a different way, like, or we could talk about it and not me just force my agenda on you. So I think that's an area where I feel really selfish and I feel really particular about how things are done. And I'm like constantly being nudged by the Holy Spirit. And I feel like Mom was talking about the fruits of the Spirit. I feel like he's teaching me like a lot about being gracious and like how to slow down and just be like, okay, what do I need for this situation? And how do I cover this person and be gracious to them instead of forcing my way on them? And it's very hard and I'm not very good at it, but I feel like it's a an area that I keep hearing God say, let's work on this, let's work on this. And I'm getting lots and lots of opportunities to work on it every day.
You gotta love small children.
Yeah.
They present the opportunities
I
relentlessly.
know all the buttons.
All right. Anybody else want to share?
Yeah. I think for me, one of the areas that I've noticed is not expressing my need. And then like that shows up in like, oh, I'm gonna carry this really heavy laundry basket downstairs whenever Parker could do it. Or I'm like making dinner and he's like, did you want some help? And I'm like, yes, I've been like needing help for the last 30 minutes. And he's like, why don't you say something? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I just
Yeah.
need to know.
Notice, read my mind. Be a female. Think like me.
Do the thing that I'm doing right now and don't ask me, just do it. And so seeing the weakness of like, and I told him recently I'm having baby number 2 in October, and I was like, there's gonna be more needs in our house than the ability to do them or have everyone have their needs met, because we have a toddler and a newborn and I'll be postpartum and he's doing school and all these different, it's like we just have more needs than ever before. And I challenged us / I'm seeing the weakness in me to be able to articulate what my need is and get it met. Instead, I'm like, I'll just throw it behind me and focus on everyone else's, which I don't know if there's like a clear answer for that, because it's like, I'm going to respond to my toddler's need.
Well, communication is what
Yeah,
it is. It's
yeah.
communication. Even if you're telling your toddler, no, mommy needs to finish doing and so I think that's good. I think that's good. Molly, Madeline, y'all want to tap in on this one, or do you want us to?
You don't have any insecurities.
Yeah, Mom, you raised us so
Like,
good.
yeah.
Typical
So,
firstborns.
I would say probably my main one is kind of similar to Mackenzie's, but just like I'm not taking any sort of breaks or like any sort of reprieve. Like I don't know if it's, I think I can do it better than anyone else can, but like essentially like getting away from it and just like having a break, like to run an errand or to go to a coffee shop and have time by myself. Like I just don't make space for that. And I guess and I think that maybe a lot of other moms do it too. And I don't know if it's a control thing or if it's just like a logistical thing. Like it's actually hard to get out of the house. And like right now, if I leave my 1-year-old for any extended period of time, he's just like a disaster for 24 whole hours until he realizes that I'm not going to leave him again. And so today I took 2 kids to go work out and left 2 babies at the house with Larry, and my baby, like the whole night, wouldn't let me put him down for the whole rest of the night. For the other 4 hours he was awake. Even we tried riding bikes and he wouldn't let me be not beside him. Like I had to ride my bike exactly next to him where he was crying. So I don't know what the reasons is, but I run myself into the ground because I'm like doing it all, taking care of it all, running everything. And then I run myself into the ground and I crash and I'm like, I need a break today. I have to get away from these kids. I have to get out of this house. I never leave this house. And I turn into like crash and burn mode. Whereas I know if I were to have set breaks before crash and burn, I wouldn't get to a place of like such desperation. And I would be able to be a better and more sustainable mom. Like every time I'm away from them for a couple hours, I like miss them and I want to be with them. And I wish I was with them
so
more.
much more.
Yes, you love them so much more. And I anyway. And so it's just, yeah, it's like, I don't know if it's an insecurity or just like a pretty significant weakness that I don't. And if anything, if it's met with any opposition, like, hey, you think I can get a break this weekend? And Larry's like, well, and then, okay, never mind. Like if it's met with any opposition, or even mom, do you think I could go somewhere when we're for the country? She's like, well, I haven't made, and I'm like, okay, never mind. Like pretend like I didn't ask, if it's just a really weird thing. That's like, it feels like just feels like prioritizing taking care of my own soul is the very bottom of the list of things that I am going to do and going to take care of. And so because of that, that's put me in a bunch of bad cycles.
Yeah, that's good. It's
that's bad. Not good, bad.
Well, it's good that you're articulating it. And that's what I want to read. That's what I want to say. I just want to say that we have to understand that motherhood is hard, not bad, hard. And we have to understand that there's things that we're not good at, that we're weak and we're inadequate at. And we need to label them. We need to communicate them. We need to bring darkness into light instead of drowning in it and not knowing why you're drowning. But go ahead and bring that and label it. Okay, this is the issue. And then ask for help, which is so, I mean, once again, preaching and not doing, I don't do it very well. But ask your husband, okay, here, this is what's happening. This is what I need, like Kinsey was saying with communicating what's going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's interesting in the world, like the current state of the world and just like the access we have, even if you don't have social media, but you watch movies, or you don't have social media, but you're aware of things around you, or if you do, which practically most moms have social media, because there's a lot of actually awesome things that you can utilize. This idea that motherhood is not hard, or that you are never going to feel weak, or you're never going to feel inadequate, is just, it's not fair and it's
Yeah.
not true. And I think sometimes, like in most other areas of our life, we give our flesh this excuse of like, oh, I'm weak, oh, I'm a sinner, oh, I failed. And while there's God's grace and he gives us a higher calling and we now live with the victory of Jesus, and motherhood, it's like this weird alter reality universe thing where the like goal and the to attain is perfection, and we will not be perfect on earth. Like we only get to be perfect when we go to heaven and we be with Jesus. So I think there's just, not that that gives you this like excuse to lay on your couch and be like, good luck, feed yourself, clothe yourself, I'm out. But I think maybe just some grace of like what you were saying, Mom, just like putting it literally pen to paper with the people in your life, your spouse, your friends, your community, of like, hey, these are the areas. Like Malin and I was just in Arkansas and I spent the night at Malin's house this time, and we were like talking about this, and we were like saying out loud some things that we in this next season are not good at, and that by saying it out loud and admitting it to community, it gives it no longer power and it gives it
Yeah.
like accountability. And so it's not scary, it's not bad, it's just giving it not the power. And I think actually
Yeah.
Mom and Dad modeled that for us very well. I remember there were several seasons where Mom would say to Dad, I cannot go on the way things are. Either I need Molly to drive these kids here, or I need someone to clean our house once a week, or I need this
Or I need to go
little,
stay at a night in a hotel. I
yeah,
can't, how many
whatever.
times
Like,
did I
I
do
just,
that?
yeah. And I mean, I don't know what it took for you, Mom and Dad, to like mature to get there, but I do remember y'all doing that. And so, like, something that I was thinking about this podcast is like, practically in your life, what is hard? Madeline has a hard 1-year-old. She has to step away, or maybe she just takes him with her and goes on a walk. Like what is practically
Yeah.
hard, and then write it down and then solve it. Like,
Yeah.
give your husband the like the knight in shining armor that God has created him to be, to fix your problem, solve your problem for you, or the people in your life, your community. And so I don't know, I just get this sense of like, let's break off the perfection of motherhood.
Yeah.
Let's be okay with being weak
Yeah.
in some areas, because also like Malin or Macy or some of you guys were saying earlier, like the moms that we knew growing up, like I can list in my head, I can think of 3 women plus mom that if you like smash them all in one, it was the perfect mom, And like we would go to someone's house because it was no rules, all fun. Mom wasn't around, but it was great. We would go to another mom's house because they had perfect snacks and their mom was always available, but there was like maybe more rules. And then we'd go to another house because she always made us be outside and had the best cookies, but we always had to be outside. And then the other mom's house had like older kids, but it was awesome. And so I just think like you aren't meant to do it alone. And so where another mom in your community might not be weak in anger and you might be, okay, cool. Like you guys get to like wrestle that out together. And so I don't know, maybe just the sense of like breaking off perfection in motherhood and
Yeah.
embracing that God is perfect and Jesus died for that. And we like get to claim that instead of this attaining thing that will never actually happen.
Totally. And I don't know the balance of that, but like Molly and I were talking about like when was there a time that like as moms we talked not to our sisters but like to a mom in our church or in our community,
Yeah.
and we were like, hey, we need help, we're having a bad day with
Yeah.
our kids, will you come grab one? Never. I've never once said that to one of my friends, my closest friends that are in my church, that are in my life group, that are in my discipleship groups. I've never said, I'm having a rough day as a mom. I'd like, will you pray for me? But I've never said, will you practically come help? And so
Yeah.
I'm like, is there something about that like, am I a perfectionist in my motherhood and I'm not willing to like admit I need a day and I need you to take my kids and it's going to be hard for you for 2 hours, harder for
And I
you.
have to be okay that it's hard for
Yes.
you, and you're
Yes.
saying yes, and I just have to be okay with it.
Yeah, I'm like, what would it take to like actually do that with each other, you know? I'm like, and I'm very blessed because I have sisters that live close by, so I can. But I'm like, anyway, we're just talking about that. Like, what would it look like for moms to actually need each other? I think it would feel a lot less. I think motherhood would feel a lot less isolating.
Yeah.
I'd feel it would feel a lot more like unified with the moms around you. I think you would feel more needed, more on mission. Like Molly's saying, she doesn't have as much capacity for her church, but what if her neighbor needed her kids to come over for a little bit?
Yeah.
That's a way she can love her church, you know? Anyway, just kind of thinking that I think perfectionism could be a block because we think we have to have it together and we have to be perfect. That could be a block to actually like unity and motherhood between other mothers because we're not willing to like be like, hey, I need help, other mom. Will you watch my kids for 2 hours? You know?
I love that. I love that. And it was, the thought that I had as you were talking was that we talked about motherhood and we talked about it being hard, but when we don't bring our insecurities from darkness to light, when we don't communicate, when we don't ask for help, when we sit in that place of perfectionism, or when we won't take a break, then that's what makes it bad. It's what turns the hard into bad, and that's what makes us think that motherhood, that they have that victim mentality or that bad perspective on it, like I don't want to do this, or this is hard, or we're grumbly or grouchy, or our husband comes home and we're miserable because we're not sharing that, we're not allowing that to come out. I remember when we were little, I did have a friend down the street, the Hawkins, and do you remember we would trade off, and I would have her 5 boys and she would have my 5 kids, and we would do that. We would take turns being imperfect with each other's kids.
So many kids.
So
That's
many
a lot of
kids.
kids.
And
And
like
so
we only
it
remember
didn't-
it as the best. It was the
Totally.
best. Like there were, I
Exactly.
don't
And I'm
have a
sure that
bad
we were
memory.
not, I'm sure the 1 on 10, the adult 1 to 10 was not patient and kind and loving. I'm sure we were not, but you guys just remembered having a great time. And so
Totally.
know that even for your kids, that
Mhm.
it's an adventure when they go.
Totally.
Mm.
Okay, let's talk about feeling lonely in motherhood. I am an introvert, internal processor that had 7 children. I don't know if I ever felt lonely, but I do know I felt isolated.
Yeah.
I do know that I felt like that I'm the only one that's doing this, and this is crazy. And I did go back to what you were saying. I had a hard time asking for help, and I didn't trust you guys with very many people.
Mhm.
And so what do you do when you do feel alone, when you're at home all day long and the only conversation you've had is with a 2-year-old? And so what does loneliness feel like as in motherhood, and what have you done to resolve it, maybe, or maybe you haven't yet?
I feel like I'm in a little bit of a unique scenario. I do have a 2-year-old that is always with me, but my husband also works from home, so he's
That-
also always
yeah,
with
so
me.
you have an adult, you have adult conversation. I think that that's a good, yeah.
And I wouldn't say he's like the most consistent because his job is kind of spotty with when meetings are, when work is busy or not busy. So we don't really have like a rhythm of like he gets up with her, or I do breakfast, or we eat lunch together. Like I've heard other people who work from home have kind of better rhythms than I think we've established. But I think loneliness or isolation for me has kind of come a lot more in maybe my thought life is a good way to put it. And I think I would just call it what it feels like. It feels like victimhood, where there's a lot of scenarios where I think I'm alone, or I think no one understands what I'm going through. Or if I share it, I'm going to come across as like really dramatic or really, victim-y. And so I just don't want to share it, even though it feels really big and really hard for me. So I think that's more of where my isolation comes in. And a lot of times it bubbles over into anger or losing my patience with Selah, or just like being over it at the end of the day and kind of being snippy or short with my husband. And so I think like loneliness can manifest in a lot of ways. But for me, it's come out a lot in my thought life and like kind of isolating myself I guess is the best way I can
Yeah.
say it.
Yeah.
And throwing myself a pity party when things are hard and not, like Molly was saying, not sharing the things with people to bring it to light to help it lose its stronghold or power. I just kind of sit in it and feel alone. And when I'm healthy, I eventually will take it to God and he'll flip it and
Yeah.
he'll speak truth and yada, yada, yada. Or if I'm in a season of like healthy D groups or discipleship, then I will share it with them and we'll process it and they'll pray for me and blah, blah, blah. There'll be breakthrough. But
That is, I mean, that's definitely one of the enemy's ploy to divide and conquer. And that's what he wants to do. He wants to isolate us and get us alone, especially in motherhood, because it's the most important thing you can do. You're the most important role model, the most important person in your child's life. And so if he gets you on a track of thinking, one, that it's you're not doing a good job, or that you're not doing it's not worth it what you are doing. But if he gets you nobody cares, nobody knows, nobody sees you. If he gets you thinking like that, then he's just pulled the fun right out of your house.
Totally. And I think as easy as it is to fall into it, I think it's the kindness of God to pull you out of it.
Yeah.
So anytime where I've gotten in those places and I've felt that way, it's not, I mean, at least for me, it hasn't been this like big, deep emotional pit that I've felt stuck in. Because the minute I turn to God and I say, like, I need your help, I feel alone, or I need your help, I feel insecure, I feel like I don't know what to do here. I feel like his presence is like, he wants to scoop us up and he like wants to like meet us and be our good shepherd. And so many times I'll be like starting to throw the pity party and he'll be like, or, like, come over here.
I got a better idea.
Or go to Madeline's house. You won't feel alone, at all. Or like just go do something. I feel like he like gives me these little things to like reactivate or pull me out of it really quick, because I think as much as the enemy wants us to feel isolated and alone, God never wants us to feel alone. He's Emmanuel. He's God with us.
It's good.
He knows that, but sometimes we forget it.
All right. Anybody else most alone in motherhood? Ever alone in motherhood?
I think
I
that's
think
the hardest.
oh, go.
I think that's the hardest part of it is you're never alone, but you're not having adult conversations.
Yeah.
Like, it's like okay, I'm interacting with people all day long, so I'm socially exhausted. But then I like try to get a coffee date with a friend or meet up at a park, and I'm like, please don't ask me intentionally how my heart's doing, because I don't even know. I'm like craving someone to know me, but also
And you're like,
I don't have
chasing,
any idea.
you're like chasing your kid on the slide, chasing your kid down the slide. You're like, hold on, let me get to that in a second.
That's the most like exciting thought that I've had is the hungry caterpillar. Like that's the most recent revelation. And I feel like that was something God said at one point. He was like, Mackenzie, in motherhood, it's less leafy or fruity and it's more maturing. Like I'm focusing on the rings of your life more than the fruit. Or like, so in college I was always like had a fresh revelation of what God had just said, fresh on my, like, because I was just reading the Bible all the time, having great convos with friends, listening to podcasts. But I don't have great fancy things to say, but God's maturing something in me.
That's
and
good.
the
Good,
monotony
Ken.
of the day to day, and it's like what my soul actually needs. But it's not very fancy. It's really boring. It's a lot of making meals and cleaning the house and taking care of little people's needs. So I think that's the loneliest part, is being like, oh, who am I now if I don't have like these adult interactions all the time filling up my bucket.
Totally. Yeah, and I think that's something that feels really important, or at least something that's felt really important for me, is I'm totally having conversations with people all day, random conversations about random things, that are so irrelevant but so funny. But then it makes the chances that I do get to have a conversation with another mom, whether it's like 5 minutes or Molly and I talking for 30 minutes the other night about, about motherhood and stuff, it just makes them feel, I don't know, like that, like more like, not richer, just like,
Meaningful.
more meaningful. So it's like one of the ways that I've, I guess, combated the feeling of loneliness is trying to prioritize those, whether it's like, just like going straight for the sucker punch question, like, how are you doing with this, processing this, da, 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 da. That's the first question I'll ask someone, like the heaviest, deepest thing I can think of. I'm just like going to go there because I'm like, we've got T-minus 45 seconds until your kid comes up or my kid comes up. So you've got
kid needs
time
us.
to answer. But it's creating friendships that are willing to go there quickly, you know, like, wow, this happened. How are you processing it? Da, 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 da. And so feeling like maybe over the last 6 years, as I've learned how to be a mom and a friend, like how to have deep, meaningful conversations quickly and efficiently, so that I can get a little bit of like a, oh wow, this is good, this is fun. I actually have friends, you know, like it's not just me and being a mom. I actually do have friends and I know about their lives and I care about their lives. And so trying to, and I think mom did a great job of that. Like she has had all this little group of like best friends that they did stuff together and they knew stuff about each other's life. And so to the best of your ability, creating adult friendships that you can have conversations with, you know, even if it is at the park and it's like you get maybe a third of a conversation in over the course of the 2 hours that you're there, but you had one, you know, and you know a little bit more and they know a little bit more about you. And then also being brave to reach out and say like, this is something I'm thinking about, and it doesn't even have to be like, this is something I'm struggling with. It can be like, I'm processing a lot about what curriculum to homeschool my kids.
Yeah.
Just wanted to tell someone, you know, just wanted someone else to be in my corner with me, you know? So that helps not feel so lonely as a mom.
Yeah, Madeline, as you were talking, I just thought of the lonely hack that I feel like I had, which was also a connection, was scooping my husband in, scooping dad in, and sharing with him what was going on in all of y'all's lives. Because I was living it, and he was the only other adult. But we would, if he would call during the day, or for sure at night, we would go to bed together, and I would share with him all the things that were happening and the conversations that y'all were having, and when you were being naughty and when you were being nice, you know, and all the different things. So he was in the know. So then the next day when he was having a conversation with you, he was in the know.
Yeah.
But it also helped me as I was living the day. It's almost like I wasn't living it alone, because I was living it thinking, okay, I'm going to share this with Don.
Yeah.
But the best thing was when you guys all got big enough and then the little boys came along, and then we could all watch them and live, you know, and laugh at them and go, come watch McCade, come watch what Michael's doing, or whatever that is too. And so I just
Not
want to
creepy at
encourage
all.
you. I just encourage you, moms, that they understand that the loneliness is there. Take those thoughts captive and look to see where your people are. Whether it's your friends, by all means, we need moms. We need to, you know, lock arms and do this mom thing together. Scoop your husband in with your different things, and then include your children. Madeline, you started doing that now with your bigger kids and the little kids, and so that's good. Does anybody else want to say anything else about being lonely in motherhood? Because I know it's a thing.
Guys, come watch Callahan stuff this whole muffin in his mouth. It's awesome. Watch him
One
eat
today,
all the snacks out of the booty
he
of his
woke up
high
from
chair.
he woke up from his nap and he was saying all the words he knew. So he would say apple, disc golf, thank you, ball, and he would just go on this little repeat Bible. Those are all the words he knows. He would just repeat each one of them over and over and over again. And so we were all standing by his door just listening, and we were like, he's saying apple, and we're dying laughing. Like, disc golf, is that disc golf? He said, Bible, and we're just laughing.
I think this is going back. Love. One helpful question that one of my dear friends has asked pretty consistently, and over the seasons, has been, "What kind of friend do you need in this season?" And then I'll get to ask in return, like, "What are you needing?" And that's just like a really simple question that you can ask the people around you, of like, "Hey, what are you needing?" And it's like, I need a sounding board to just talk about the curriculum that I'm going to maybe do with my kids. You know, it's like, great, let's like send me some voice memos and I'll like give you some feedback thoughts, or anything like that. There's so many different things that could come up, but it's helpful to be a quality friend instead of a quantity friend if you don't have the quantity time to spend.
Totally.
Well, and I think even a deeper practical is asking that question to God. You know, like what would it look like in each season to have God as your friend, to God help you not feel lonely, like to walk with Jesus through motherhood, you know, and just being like, okay, I know I need community, but there are going to be nap trap hours of the day, stretches of the day where it's just me in my home. Instead of feeling alone or letting the enemy speak that over me, why don't I make it this like really sweet time with Jesus, you know, and invite him into doing the dishes or invite him into those little conversations or those little moments. Cause I think think he's there no matter what. And I think we could be more aware of it. And even just like maybe something practical is like writing it somewhere where you see it frequently enough that you could remember, like, oh yeah, I'm a friend of God. God's my friend. What kind of friend is God to me in this season? He's in the house with me, you know?
Okay, I have one more category, one more little section I want to talk about, and then we will wrap this up and you can go put your children to bed, or if they're already in bed. Okay, let's talk about in this whole reclaiming motherhood, your perspective on your kids. I know that you guys first, for sure, you first two, actually, Macy too, scooped you first three children. I had a radically different perspective on you guys than I did the little boys. I mean, the little boys, I was a decade older, and I saw how fast time flew. And they hung the moon almost, whereas you poor little girls couldn't do anything right for a while.
Good thing we were cute.
Good thing you were, oh my gosh, Macy, that is so true. Good thing you were so cute and helpful, and you were kind. But I've said over and over again, if I could re-raise my first three, I would, in a heartbeat. Not that you guys didn't turn out
Cool.
great, because of Jesus. I mean, literally because of Jesus, but because of who I was. We grew up together. I grew up with you guys. I was in my early 20s when I was raising you guys. And so, your perspective on kids, let's just talk about that a little bit. What helps you see your children as a blessing, especially on the hard days, or maybe on the days when they are literally not being a blessing, but you want to choose to see them as a blessing? What is it that you do?
I think one thing that you probably, what essentially what you're saying is, or it feels like you got perspective from your first three to the second set of babies, is just perspective on time, you know? And I feel that way. Like today I was talking to a mom at the pool, and she was about to have her first baby, and she said, she's like, I don't know how you're doing it with 4 kids. She's like, I'm feeling so stressed about one. She said, what if I don't have everything I need? What if I don't? What if I, she was asking me all these questions, and I was like, Walmart is 10 minutes away. You're going to be fine. You're going to have you're going to figure it out. But I think that you don't have that with your first few. You don't have the perspective with your first one for sure. You just don't have perspective of like, they're only one for so long, like squishy.
Well, don't you feel like it's
elbow
going to last
blend.
forever? Like I
Yes, you
remember
think yes.
Molly is a newborn thinking that she's never going to sleep through the night ever, or she's never going to learn how to go potty ever, and then by the time a kid came along, I don't even know who potty trained him.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, I have no idea. He is now.
Potty trained?
He currently is potty trained.
Have we
He's
confirmed?
19
Me
years
too.
old.
Would you like to confirm I am also?
Oh yeah, for sure, Molly, for sure. But anyway, yes, I agree that it's that first egg out of the chute is just
Yeah, so I think that is so, yeah, there's just perspective. And I tell Larry that all the time. I'm like, they're not going to be this little forever. They're just they're only, I'm like, tell him that with True all the time. I'm like, you should go out there and play with him, because eventually there's going to be people that are cooler than you. Like kind of soon there's about to be people that are cooler than you, but right now you're the coolest. And right now, like the girl, this is probably TMI, but Everly had like goggles stuffed in her shirt, and I was like, what are those? And she was like saying, it's so I can nurse my baby. And I was like, oh, okay, like that is what you think is cool. It's like giving yourself the tools to nurse the baby, And but like I'm like because I'm nursing Callahan, like that's all she sees. It's like she wants to be just like me. But eventually there's gonna be people that are cooler. Anyway, and the 1-year-old, Ollie and I were like have both 1-year-olds, and we were just like, we're obsessed with them. We just want to be with them all the time and kiss them all the time. And I think we did think that about our first 1-year-olds, but not to the same degree that we thought about it with our second, third, or fourth 1-year-olds. It's just there's just something about perspective of like knowing how fast time really goes when you've got your 6-year-old and you're sending him to kindergarten, or you've got your 6-year-old and he's losing his 2 front teeth, that you're like, wait a minute, you were just one. And if I blink, I'm going to miss it. And so I'm going to appreciate the moment. So that is helpful to not, with motherhood, to have a helpful perspective on your kids, is to just know it really does. You moms out there are living it. It goes by so fast. Even little Selah, where we were looking at a picture of her.
Yeah.
And she was just newborn Selah. And now she's
Yes.
like full personality Selah. And so just remembering that it goes by so fast. And so live every single moment to the maximum if you can, even when they're being annoying, you know?
I think for me, you want to go, Mom?
No.
I'm living this weird reality where that's happening to me real time, like what Mom is saying. So I think Mom and Dad have this perspective, like they can say now, oh, we were this way with the girls and then we were this way with the boys. But I don't know if they would have said that necessarily in the middle of all of that. But because of the gap between my oldest Sebastian and my youngest Cruz, and honestly their personalities, Damien and I sometimes go to bed and we're like, Cruz did things that Sebastian was doing at one that at now we laugh at Cruz at and we're like,
Yeah.
do it again. And it's like very bad. And when Bash when Bash does it now or when he did it then, we bit his head off. Like the standard that we hold Bash to in his current life, because he is the oldest, because he's 6, because he's our firstborn, whatever the reason, the excuse you want to give yourself, is not the same in our, like, not like we're expecting Bash to do this thing and Cruz to be this loser. I'm saying like it's an unfair standard. And then Cruz does these things and we're like, oh my gosh, I just obsessed with you. Like we would never in our life dream of getting Sebastian out of his bed if he cried in the night. And with Cruz, I'm like, let's just get him. And he's like perfectly fine asleep. But we're like, I just need him closer to me. And so I'm doing this every day. And so I think for me, what you're saying is like, how do you see your kids as a blessing, especially on the hard days? I'm like reminded about it. It's like slapping me in the face because
living
I
it.
treat Bash one way and then I love Cruz another way. And so I think for me, what reverses my, because what y'all are saying is like such a lofty thing. And I think all moms would love to say, yeah, I want my perspective changed, but it's really, really hard in the like true moments when things are happening. So for me, it's like the moment's gonna happen. I'm probably gonna hold him to a different standard. I'm gonna bite his head off for doing something. I'm gonna be like, that was so dumb, or say something that I regret, or just be like, man, that was an unfair like expectation that I had on you, my 6-year-old child. Is apologize. And like the minute that my mind goes to repentance or like, hey, I messed up, then he becomes the blessing again. He becomes the thing that I love the most in the world. The thing who's like Mal was saying about like Callahan, Bash is like still obsessed with me. And I know that's gonna go by so, so fast. I mean, he's in real school. He's gonna find people cooler than me very, very soon. And so I think for me, it's like, sure, can I get sanctified enough to where I don't react or I don't treat them not like the blessing or I don't treat them as an obstacle? Gosh, Jesus, please help me to change that in my heart. But in the moments where my flesh is weak and it bubbles over and I don't do that, my immediate, or even if it's hours later, like so many times I lose my self control because he's in the way or he's annoying or he did something I didn't want him to do. And we'll be driving in the car and I'll be like, hey, buddy, do you remember earlier? Do you remember earlier when you spilled your water? And because I was overstimulated and I had already cleaned up this and I asked you to move it and you didn't, I lost my cool when you spilled your water. That was so uncool of me. Like, you can spill your water whenever you need to. We can clean it up together and it's not a problem. Like, I am sorry for losing my self control. Will you please forgive me for, like failing in that essentially? And then he becomes a blessing again. And he's like, in his mind, he's like, cool, we're good. I mean, I hope that's what I pray. But I think for me, like, I'm going to lose it or I'm going to do the wrong thing or I'm going to have bad perspective. Like, I know. And so when I apologize, even if it's later, I feel like to me, they become the important thing that God has entrusted to me again.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah.
I just think super simply trying to make it super practical goes back to the mindset for me, but I think it's the overflow too. It's like, do I really think they are a blessing? Like I try almost every single day. I try to say more positive, life-giving
Yeah.
things to Sayla than disciplinary or instructive or just like harsh. And like I get to the end of my day and I'm like, was she a blessing today? And some days, no. Like her average behavior was not great, But my response to that is totally my choice. How do I view her? How do I love her? And how do I like call out of her what I'm maybe not even seeing yet? And it like goes back to my brain. I'm like, Do I believe she was a gift from God? Do I believe she's a soul from heaven that God gave me to steward? Do I believe that this day will not be every day for the rest of my life? Like her
Mhm.
behaviors will change,
Mhm.
her life and her heart and all of that will grow and evolve. And like, how do I choose right now to see her as a blessing when I'm not seeing her as a blessing? And I think for me, it really has come down to really simply like checking my mindset. Do I believe she's a blessing from God given to me to steward? And then am I saying more life-giving things than harsh, critical, corrective things? And I like have kind of scooped my husband into that too because he's home all the time and like he'll come out of the office and she's playing with something and he'll be like, "Don't touch that, Selah." And then she'll go into the pantry and grab something. He'll be like, "Don't get that right now, Selah." And then she'll go to the fridge and she'll want to open it and be like, "Not right now, Selah." And I'll just kind of say like, "Hey
Mm.
babe, that was like 3 things that you corrected her on. Like go tickle her, like or go scoop her up and tell her you love her, or go tell her she looks so cute in her outfit." And like we're almost practicing with each other to implement those positive life-giving things
Mhm.
in our house and in our home because it's for our brains, but it's also for our kids because we want them to believe they're a blessing and then we want them
Good.
to act like a blessing. And so it's like we have to kind of create that culture with our words.
Yeah.
And for us, that's very practically just meant say life-giving things.
Yeah.
Call out the other day, Sayla walked into the house, went straight to her room and put her little Crocs in her basket and walked back out. Just like no one told her to, she just did it. And I was like, "Did you just put your shoes in your basket all by yourself?" She's like, "Yep." And I was like, "Yeah, wow, way to go, you crushed it." I'm like, she was proud of herself, but after we celebrated her, she was so proud of herself. And I was like, that was
Yeah.
a 1 in 100 times. She's never done it since, I'm pretty sure, but it's like celebrating her makes it feel like she's more of a blessing and calling it out.
Mhm. I love that. So just an inside view, which you guys have probably figured out, but maybe not. I don't know that I'd figured out at your age, but looking back now and living it now, and even living with grandchildren now, um, obviously our children are a blessing. Period. The end. They are. They are a gift from God. We do know that. Sometimes they might not act like that. And I would even say a lot of the times they don't act like that because of what's happening internally or externally. They might be mirroring what they're seeing from us
Uh-oh.
if we wake up in a bad mood. And so
Good.
how can we change what they're seeing? How can we be the blessing so that they can be the blessing that they have been created to be? How can we change the environment? How can we change the external that we're actually in charge of, because it's an adult world that we live in, so that they can be the blessing? What is it going to take for them to flourish? And I love what you said, Macy. We need to make more deposits than we make withdrawals. And I've
Good.
seen it so many times that when a kid is depleted, when an adult is depleted,
Yeah.
then they're not a blessing. We're grouchy and we're
Mhm.
irritated and we're frustrated when we don't have anything. But when we're filled up and we feel so good, then we've got more. We're a blessing. We've got it to give. And so the cool thing about that is, as being a mom, is we have a huge impact on if our children are a blessing or not. And so if for some reason they wake up and they are not a blessing, we can change that. We can change that. I'm not going to say that it's your fault, but maybe it was. I mean, maybe you yelled at them before they went to bed and they had bad dreams all night, or maybe, who knows what happened, but I do know that you are in charge of what can happen.
Yeah.
You can build it. And so I just want to encourage you that perspective is very, very, how we see our kids is a game changer in how the day goes.
Good.
Yeah.
And if we see them as amazing and incredible, then it's going to be an amazing, incredible day. Even if they're rotten, like, oh my goodness, the other day I watched Madeline. Her 2-year or 3-year-old now was having a day. I mean, she was just having a day, and she was just annoying everybody. And so Madeline scoops her up, and she just starts flailing and hitting Madeline in the face. And Madeline just wraps her arms around her a little bit tighter, and Madeline just throws her head back and just laughs. And it reminds me of the Proverbs 31 woman. She laughs at the days to come.
He laughs
You
at
know,
her horrible toddler.
and she didn't grab her arms and yell at her and say, "No, you can't hit me," and Juliet knows that. She knows she's not supposed to hit anybody. She knows she's not supposed
Yeah.
to hit, but she knows all that. But what she needed to be was to be
Reset.
a mirror.
Yeah.
Exactly. She needed to see how she needed to act. And so sure enough, she started laughing after Madeline started laughing. And so I just want to encourage you parents, if your child's not a blessing, then what's your perspective of them?
Yeah.
Good.
Good.
Okay, is there anything else we're talking about anything else that we want to say as we wrap up our little podcast? Anybody?
You're not alone, moms. There's a
Yeah.
lot. I feel like a lot we shared, and we were like all sharing different perspectives, but it's like been one of the greatest joys of my life is getting to be a mom with my sisters. And I was literally just telling my mom the other day, I was like, they do things different than I do. Each of them, like they have different ways and different priorities, but they're sharpening me and they're like teaching me and they're challenging me in multiple areas of my life, and not in a negative way, but they're like making me continually question what am I doing? You know, like is the direction I'm going even 1% off? Because Kinsey talks to Alice this way, and then Madeline talks to Truett this way, but then Molly talks to Bash this way, and I don't talk to Sayla like any of those ways, you know? Like I have my own approach, but none of them are good or bad, but it's this constant like I get to do it with them, and it's so sharpening and it's so refining and it's so good. And so, one, you're not alone, moms. And if you do feel alone, go find women that you can do it with and like make that a priority for this fall and this season. Find the kid's mom in your kid's class, you know, find anybody at a park, at a pool, anywhere. Find someone in your church.
Moms are
Yes, they're
everywhere.
all, knock on some doors, you know, they're in there. But just like, I think it's really is like my mom said, from the enemy to make you feel alone and isolated, and you're just not. Like God is with you, and there are women out there that want to do life on life and do motherhood together.
Real quick, grief is defined as what you would want to do different, better, and more. And I think right now we're in the midst of building memories and childhood experiences and like
Yeah.
being a mom.
Yeah.
And like I think that that's what all of the grandparents that we see in all the stores are speaking into is like, you're gonna want to have done this different, better, and more. Like you're gonna want to do.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a helpful evaluation of like, okay, if for some reason my motherhood experience stopped tomorrow, what would I look back and be like, oh, I wish I would have done that different. I wish I would have done that more, and I wish I would have done that better. I think that one of the biggest ones is like getting on the floor and playing with Alice. Like that's one of the things I want to do every day if I can to like get in her world, which is what you talked about earlier.
Or pick her up and put her on the couch to play with you, so you don't have to bend down
On the ground, 9 months, 8 months pregnant.
Put her
But like, what are like? I think that that's been a really helpful lens for me as I'm walking through being married to Parker. Of like, what would I have wanted to do? Like, whenever we're old and you die or I die or whatever, it's like, what would I want to do different, better, and more? And I think like one song that we listened to that we were laughing about before we started the podcast are "These Are the Days" by Corey Asbury.
Shout
It
out.
talks about like these are the days that you'll want back. Tell them bedtime stories, give them a kiss goodnight. Like just these things when you're waking up at 3 a.m. and they're crying. You know, it's like these are the days that you'll actually want back. And so just want to like encourage you in that of start to evaluate this year as what do I want to do different, better, and more.
Yeah.
And then do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then fight to be positive if you can be. I know it's hard. I'm acknowledging that it's hard. I'm living the middle of the hard. But when other moms are talking and oh my kids, rah, 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 and oh motherhood, rah, 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 just saying something positive can change the whole atmosphere. Of like, I'm so sorry that happened, you know, and just being like, I feel really thankful that I did it, or just something positive is helpful, or even helping them. Like, yeah, that's really hard. I had a kid that did that too, but they grew out of it, you know, or they don't do that. They don't act that way anymore. And there's hope or whatever. Or when you're talking about motherhood, just claiming it of like, I feel called to this and I feel excited that I get to be at home all day, every day with them. And I feel really purposeful. And yes, it's difficult at times, but it's also so fulfilling. And I go to bed every night and I fall asleep in 4 seconds because I gave them everything I have. 1050% of my energy, mentally, emotionally, and physically, was given to those 4 small children and 1 husband and my home, you know? And I'm like, yeah, that's what a fulfilled day is like, you know?
It's good.
And so anyway, just being positive with that perspective.
All right. So I'm reminded, and I've loved, and I clung to the scripture, Isaiah 40:11. He gently leads those that have young. And so, you mamas out there, if you've listened to this and you're like, oh, I'm not doing that good, or I should do that better, or if you're shoulding yourself, I just want you to think that, remember that God is gently leading you.
Yeah.
He sees you,
Good.
he knows you, he loves you, he's given you exactly what you need to be who he has created you to be. And so there's going to be some molding and some shaping, and it's going to be hard. And when you communicate and you ask people to help you, then it's not going to be bad, and that's good. And so when we do our Crazy Cool Family podcasts, we have these things called a CCC, a crazy cool, and then another C word. And this podcast, we want to wrap up with the CCC as a crazy cool calling. And that's what motherhood is. And it makes me cry because it is the highest, most valuable, most important thing that you can do on this earth, period. And that's coming from a mom. Now, a doctor might say different, and a pilot might say different, and a lawyer might say different. But from a mom, oh my goodness, we get to mold and shape people for God's kingdom. He has gifted them to us. He put them in our womb to grow. We got to birth them, however it is that they came out. You got to nurture them into being and growing into the people that they are now. It is the most incredible thing. It's 24 hours, 7 days a week, forever. It never ends. We are empty nesters, but that means absolutely nothing. That means that I call and text 7 children almost every day. And so just know that he's going to give you everything you need to be the best that you can be in this role of being a mom, and it's worth it. It is incredibly and completely and totally worth it. So if all that is said, then enjoy it. Then allow yourself to enjoy it, because that's why God's given it to you. He hasn't given it to you to be hard bad. He's given it to you to be hard enjoying, and hard incredible, hard awesome, hard amazing, hard exciting, hard all the good words on the back end. All right. So we love you. Thank you, girls. I'm so glad your little mamas now, and you're getting to live it. And all you mamas out there, we just tell you to go be crazy. crazycoolfamily.com.